Hey, this is another video by Petrock, and today I'm working on my 03 Dodge Durango. It's a 4.7 liter. Recently, while doing some other work on this car, I noticed that there was signs of water being sprayed on my battery and also dripping underneath. It's kind of hard to see on video, but it's definitely there. You can see the wetness on the battery, like right there, for example. I discovered that the hose was leaking underneath here. If I wipe my hand on it, you can see that my hand is nice and wet. So the hose itself is fine. It's this plastic piece in the middle that the radiator cap attaches to that is apparently cracked and has been leaking. So in this video I'm going to be replacing this upper radiator hose as well as the lower radiator hose and thermostat. They're all stock to this vehicle, so they're due for a change. Okay, now that you've got the radiator and the block drained out, now we can remove the hoses. So first thing you want to remove is the reservoir vacuum hose. You want to take it and twist it a couple times first and then pull it off. It's like a Chinese finger trap, like that, and just tuck it out of the way. And then you loosen and move out of the way the clip here and the clip here. Then you take a large set of channel locks, grip onto the hose like this, and twist it to break it free. Like that. Oftentimes the rubber will stick to metal components. So you want to do that on both sides. Now just remove the hose. So once you have the hose off, if you plan on reusing these clamps, which I do, just make sure to take them off and set them aside for now. And there's your prize. So it's hard to see on camera, but there's a split right in here on the plastic. So now we compare the two. This is the new part made by Goodyear, part number 62448, and this is the old part, obviously. You want to compare them, make sure they're about the same. The Goodyear one is actually about an inch shorter. Not thinking that's going to be a problem. Yeah, it doesn't look like it's going to be a problem. So one thing you want to do is inside the old one, there will be a little spring like this. This helps prevent the hose from kinking as well as from collapsing sometimes under weird conditions where you get a vacuum and the hose will suck in like this. This spring helps prevent that. Before reinstalling it, it'd be a good idea just to wipe off the spring because it will have dirt and other garbage on it from the cooling system that you don't want to get into your new system. So now you take your spring and install it into your new hose. So you also want to clean off the hose mating surface as well as possible to remove any dirt or potentially any rust. Before you install the hose, you need to put your clips back on. So orient them in a fashion that'll make it easy to get to when you're installing them. Now it's a good idea to get a can of silicone lubricant like this and spray some into the ends of the hose. This allows it to slide onto the fittings easier. You don't want to spray directly onto the fittings. You can get some overspray that may hit your fan belt and that'll cause it to squeak and slip, and you don't want that. So just spray a little bit into the end of the hose. Like that. And slide one end in, and then maneuver and slide the other end in. Like that. Then position it so that the nozzle is pointing straight up, and check for any kinks. Make sure that the hose hasn't kinked at all as you're inserting it around this bend, which it hasn't. And I think we're good to go. So grab your channel locks or pliers and reinstall the springs. You want to make it so that the springs are easily accessible by having them pointing straight up or at an angle or however you want them to be, just so you can get access to them, and so that they are also fully seated onto the fitting. Now you take the hose for the reservoir and stick it onto the end. Make sure it too is not kinked at all. And now we move to the bottom hose. Okay, now we need to remove the lower hose. It's easiest to actually remove the thermostat housing first than it is to remove the hose from the thermostat housing. So you just remove this 8mm bolt on the bottom and the corresponding one on the top, and then remove the thermostat housing. Keep in mind that there will be coolant behind the thermostat as well as in the hose, even after you've drained out the radiator. So be aware and keep a drain pan underneath. Okay, now we need to move and remove the top clamp for the top of the lower radiator hose. There isn't a lot of room down in here, so I'm going to have to do this off camera so I can get my arm in here. Okay, once you've got the clamp off, you want to take your channel locks and twist the hose to dislodge it from the fitting. Again, I'm going to have to do this off camera because there's not a lot of room in here. I've already got it spun, and I've been able to push it a little bit through the front with a screwdriver to pop it off. Now just remove the hose completely. Okay, now with the radiator hose off, we need to remove the thermostat housing. Like that. The old and the new parts. This is the new one, also made by Goodyear, and this is the old one. The Goodyear part number is 62279. You want to compare them, obviously pointing the same relative direction, and these look pretty much dead on. So now we need to swap over the clamps and the spring that's inside. So because of this bend in here, it makes it a little bit difficult to remove the spring. So what I've been doing is I pull and I twist in the same direction as the spring. You don't want to unwind the spring, you want to tighten the spring. Like that. And you now have a still intact spring that hasn't been stretched to all get out. Now like before, take a rag or towel and wipe down the spring. So to assist in installing the spring, take your silicone lubricant and just shoot it all in there on both sides. And then take your spring and twist it just like you did before, and it'll slide on in. Now it might get stuck on this bend up here, just pull it out a little bit, and there you go. Okay, now it's time to install the thermostat housing back onto the hose. Now like before, you want to shoot a little bit of silicone lubricant in the hole and twist this in. You know you're all the way in when it hits this notch right there. You want to try to orient it so it's going to be about where it would be when you install it, and this side is the bottom, this side's the top, and it's roughly like that. We don't want to install this clamp right now because when we're installing the hose, we want to be able to rotate the housing in order to make sure it lines up and doesn't kink the hose up in the process. But you do want to orient the clips so that you can gain access to them as you're installing them. So in this case, this clip needs to be facing downward and this clip needs to be facing up. So I need to rotate this. So now we move on to the thermostat. So this is the thermostat housing that attaches to the block. These are 3 different thermostats. This is the stock one that came with my truck from the factory. This is one that I had replaced because the seal was leaking. I think it was a stent. And this is the replacement that I've just purchased recently. If you look closely, there's actually slight differences between, well, these two are similar. This one, the stent, is different than these two. The difference is this little tab at the top. That's a locating tab so that you position the thermostat correctly within the housing. This one right here, I got from AutoZone. It's a Duralast, whatever their brand is. And this one's the stent. It doesn't have that tab. You can see that the gasket's a little bit deformed too. All of them have this little breather hole. This is to allow air in the system to pass through when there's no pressure. This helps prevent air pockets from forming in your truck. So the purpose in this tab is to fit into this little slot right here. See if you can see that. And that locates this breather hole with this little indentation in the housing right here. If your thermostat doesn't have that tab, you need to manually position it so that the breather hole is in this little notch. You want this breather hole to be on the top when the thermostat is positioned, so it will be roughly like that when you install it. So like the top hose, you want to wipe off the outlet, get any crud that may be on it off. And like the top, granted I'm going to show this off camera, you want to squirt a little bit of silicone lube into the opening of the hose to allow for easier installation. You bring the hose up from the bottom. Now again, there's not a lot of room in here, so I'm going to have to do this off camera. Okay, once you have the hose all the way on, you move down to position the thermostat housing against the block. So now you need to just wipe off the mating surface. Make sure it's free of any contaminants or scratches or gouges. Insert the thermostat into the housing because it is a bit of a snug fit, especially with this aftermarket one. And make sure that you align it properly. So try to line it up with those notches that I showed earlier. Press it in there, make sure it's nice and snug. Sorry, I can't show this any better. Now line it up with the housing, like that. Insert the screws for the housing, making sure that they go in straight. You do not want to cross thread these. Start them by hand. Once you've got them started, now you can snug them down. These metal dowels right here, I don't know if you can see it in the camera, these little brass dowels, those will ensure that this thing lines up properly within the casing. You want to tighten both sides evenly. So tighten one side, a couple turns, then tighten the other, back and forth until it's fully seated. Now you torque them down to 200 inch-pounds. Now that we have the thermostat housing fully installed, it's a good idea to give the hose a good twist to make sure that it's not kinked. Okay, once you're satisfied that the hose is not kinked and that it's installed correctly, install your clips. So that's pretty much it. I hope this video helped you out. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns, please leave them in the comments section below. If you like this video, please click the like button. If you want to see more videos like this one, subscribe.